people who are not clinically depressed, but people who have sad moods, or people who tend to be in a mildly depressed mood, actually tend to be more realistic about their own performance, and more realistic in their predictions about the risk of things happening in the future. It's like if you look at people appraising the likelihood of an earthquake in Southern California in a given period of time, happy people tend to really lowball the actual risk, and people who are somewhat sad actually tend to get pretty close to right. People who are happy tend to overestimate their performance on task, and people who are a little bit sad tend to be about right, actually. Mood congruence, this whole line of social cognitive research has been cited as support both for Gordon Bauer's network theory of affect, which is just the idea that we talked about at other points in the course, that there's memories are connected with each other by associational links, and that one of those associational links is to a mood that you were in that's associated with that memory. And it's also linked to Aaron Beck's schema of theory of depression in the clinical literature. And one of my kind of long-term goals for this body of research is to see if there are consistent differences in the way that older adults link emotion and cognition as opposed to younger adults, that might feed into differences in psychological interventions for older adults with depression, or in the case of some of the anxiety stuff we'll be looking at with anxiety. As we get to the actual studies, one things I'll point to along the way, though, is both ways that in the neutral conditions, our results mostly do support Carsonson's socio-emotional selectivity theory. In the induced mood conditions, not so much. So you can do mood congruence in a couple of ways. People look at it in clinical populations, and we're hoping to get some of that started in the next few years. Or you can bring people into the lab and make them sad or anxious or happy or something, which works way better than there's any reason you expect it to in the following way. It appears that people induced in the sad moods process information, and in some lab circumstances can hit levels of sad mood that are similar to clinical levels of sadness, but for probably like 15 minutes or so, as opposed to what we did in the first study. It also sort of appealed to me because I spent my professional career up to this point trying to make sad older adults happy, but it's time for a change. Let's see happy older adults and make them sad. So what we did in the first study that was published in 2002 is for the sad mood induction we used the Belton technique, which is a set of sentences that you read to yourself that are designed to make you sad, and actually developed by a guy who got his PhD in counseling psych here at USC back in the 60s. It's been one of the primary techniques in mood induction ever since his dissertation research. And it's stuff like, I'm feeling really tired today, and my life is miserable right now. And then there's like a neutral set of statements that the one I, for some reason, always sticks in my mind is there's a large rose garden outside of Tyler, Texas. And then, because especially in the early phase, when I've kind of cut down on how much stuff we try to get people to do after the induction over the years that we've been doing this, but we've always been concerned about trying to make the mood last as long as possible. So after the Belton statements, we then play sad music to keep it going. So it's things like The Swan of Tuonela, and I think the most evocative title is Russia Under the Mongolian Yoke. And then there's a set of Bach pieces that are described in all of this literature as neutral. They've always seemed kind of upbeat to me. And then to help us with the IRB at the end, play Trojan marching band music. Just in case there's any lasting effects of the induction. And then we look at how people handle different kinds of negative tasks. The first slide here is spelling negative homophones. And negative homophones are you're reading these words aloud, and the ones that are the test cases are words that could have, that people are asked to write down what you've said. And the test cases are the ones where the same sound could have different spellings, one of which is negative in valence and one of which is neutral. For example, if you say pain, it could be P-A-I-N or P-A-N-E. And it's mixed with some others. And then there's sets of, so we have older adults in a sad mood, older adults in the neutral induction, and then the young. And so as you see, the Carstensen effect will be just comparing the two neutral groups, and you can see that the older adults in the neutral condition spell fewer negative versions of homophones than the young people do, which is consistent with Carstensen. But then induced into a sad mood, the older adults actually do more than the older adults in the neutral condition, whereas actually with the young adults, you don't get much of an effect. If anything, this is not significant, but the young adults actually show a little bit less in the sad condition than they did in the neutral condition. Same kind of idea with word list recall. You have people who are presented with a series of words that go by. They see each word for about 2 seconds. It's also read aloud. Little gaps in between. And the word list are a mix of positive and negative words. And then they're asked to recall those both immediately after we quit presenting the word list, and then we do some other things with them later on in the session. There's delayed recall. And in the immediate condition, again, if you look at the neutral groups, the older adults remember slightly more positive words, significantly more, and slightly less negative words than the young people do. So you've got kind of a Carstensen effect. If you go over to the negative condition, the primary thing with the immediate recall, the main change was that for the older adults, but not the younger adults, the older adults remembered fewer positive words immediately, immediate recall time than the group in the neutral condition did. So being induced into a sad mood sort of tamped the element of positivity effect here. Same thing, but delayed word recall now, and here you get the, again, the general age effect with the neutral condition, with the older adults lower on negative, higher on positive. In both old and young, you see more negative words being recalled in the sad mood condition than in the neutral mood condition. And again, only for the older adults, you get fewer positive words being recalled in the sad condition than in the neutral mood condition. And then finally, we got an induction effect for autobiographical memories from high school years. So this one, we just asked people to recall 3 memories from their high school days, and then the memories that they recalled were coded as either positive, neutral, and mixed, and sad. And the older, this is the proportion of negative memories, and actually the older adults in the neutral condition recall more negative memories than people in the younger people in the neutral condition did. But in both circumstances, both young and old people in sad condition recall more sad memories than they did in the neutral condition.
What does the OR stand for?
Odds ratio. Because these were qualitative data, it's the relative risk of recalling negative information, negative high school memories, if you're in that condition. And we actually did the age difference here was not quite significant.